Okay, up to the point now with the tractor, we got the electronic ignition on and rebuilt the carburetor. Had the tractor running and wanted to make sure that I had it fine-tuned. But whenever I would warm up the tractor so that I could fine-tune it, after the tractor was warmed up, it would start to smoke. So I decided to go ahead and do a compression test. I checked all three, these three cylinders turned out fine, but this number 2 cylinder had very low compression. It was like 7.5 pounds. I knew that was not enough compression for that cylinder to fire. So I did a leak down test to try to figure out why it had low compression. I put about 10 pounds of pressure on number 2 cylinder, and I had air coming out of the carburetor. So I knew that the intake valve was the problem. So I looked at the valves through the spark plug holes, and I could see the valves coming up and down on all the cylinders except for number 2. There was only one valve coming up and down. That was the exhaust valve. So I looked inside with a camera, and I saw that the number 2 intake valve was stuck partially open. It was mostly closed, but just barely partially open, and it would not move. So I knew since that valve was not moving, there had to be something mechanically wrong in the rocker arm or the push rod, or maybe a spring was broke or something. So I took the valve cover off, and when I took the valve cover off, I noticed that this push rod for the number 2 intake valve was bent over, all the way over here. So I took the rocker arm assembly off, and I took this push rod and straightened it out in the vise, stuck it back in, and put the rocker arm back on. But in the meantime, I freed up this valve by putting a block of wood on it and hitting it with a hammer, up and down, just to free it up. Once I got that freed up and got everything all back together, the push rod back together, then I did another compression test. And lo and behold, I got about 85 pounds of pressure on this once I got all of that fixed and got the push rod fixed. So I think that's solved the problem.